Hey everyone, this is Pete. Welcome back to Atari ST A to Z, a series of short playthroughs of Atari ST games, some which I grew up with and some which are new to me. Today is one of the former. This is Ikari Warriors. I guess that technically that should be Ikari Warriors, shouldn't it? But most people I know have always pronounced it Ikari Warriors, so I won't change with tradition now. So this was originally released as an arcade game by SNK in 1986, and home computer ports followed for 16-bit computer platforms, the PC and the Commodore 64. There was another Commodore 64 port in 1989, I believe, but obviously we don't need to worry about that here because Commodore. Ikari, or Ikari, means fury, and it's taken from the Japanese title for Rambo First Blood Part 2, which is Rambo Ikari no Dashutsu, or The Furious Escape. So obviously the connections to Rambo are pretty obvious. This was noteworthy in the arcades for the fact it used a rotary joystick that SNK called the loop lever. What this meant was you had a joystick that you could move in 8 directions as normal, but you could also twist it. And what that meant was that you could aim and you could move into independent directions. You'd twist the joystick to change which direction you were facing, and you'd push the joystick to move in that direction. So that would allow you to sort of back up and fire as you're moving away, or to strafe, or all sorts of things like that. Obviously the home ports lack that particular feature due to the limitations of the joysticks of the time. But yeah, this is still a pretty solid port as I recall. So I'm looking forward to giving it a try again. At the time, the home releases were kind of criticised for being unoriginal. We'd seen a lot of Commando clones by this point, and this was seen as just another one. So obviously the arcade version had the unique aspect of the loop lever in there, but a lot of people didn't think that the home ports really offered enough to make it a unique experience that stood out from the other Commando type games that we had out there. Okay, let's have a look at the box we've got here. So obviously we've already seen the cover out there, very much Rambo inspired. Here's the back with some screenshots and a bit of blurb. So, General Alexander Bon, CIF US forces in Central America, has been seized by a band of revolutionaries and held captive in his own headquarters. Before his final capture, he relayed a mayday which you and your buddy picked up. Your plane crash lands in the dense jungle some distance from the headquarters. After deciding whether to go it alone or attempt the rescue together, you set off. You're deep in guerrilla territory. On all sides gather trained marksmen and combateers determined to stop you. It soon becomes apparent that you lack the supplies to win, but win through you must. Ambush enemy tanks and use them yourself. Collect fuel and grenades left by the enemy as they retract. Show no mercy, for you are the Ikari Warrior. Yeah, some strange phrasing in there, but one other thing noteworthy in this is that the names are all localized in this version particularly. So in the original arcade version, it wasn't General Bon. I forget his exact name, but he was named after someone who worked at SNK, but that was changed for the Western release because obviously, well, I don't know if anyone in Japan would know who General Mr. SNK was, but yeah, it was changed for the release over here. Pretty simple box. We've got the game on one disc. Helpfully informs us that you need to put it in that way round, just in case you've forgotten, and a manual, and that's about it. And we got one of these weird sort of universal cases that is primarily designed to take cassettes. I think you can fit a floppy disk in there though. Let's just have a quick go. I'm pretty sure you can. Yeah, there you go. You can just about pop a floppy disk into one of those as well. So quite a few games that came out on multiple platforms were released in boxes like this because they could take cassette versions for the 8-bit platforms or 3.5-inch floppy disk versions for the 16-bit. Again, we've got another little manual, and it's another teeny tiny one that has got 3 pages of relevant information, and then those same 3 pages of relevant information in 2 other languages. So we've got the story from the back of the box repeated again. Loading instructions for every platform under the sun. So Spectrum 48K, Spectrum 128K, Spectrum Plus 3, Amstrad, Commodore 64, Commodore C16, Atari ST, IBM PC. And that's it. No mention of Amiga, interestingly. I'm surprised there's no Amiga version. Yeah, and then we've got instructions on how to play. And again, we've got all of the instructions for all of the possible platforms. So whether you're playing with joystick on an Atari ST or whether you're playing with keyboard on PC and so on. And then copyright information. So Not the most interesting package in the world, and if reviews of the time are to be believed, not the most interesting game in the world, but I've always quite liked Ikari Warriors, so I've been looking forward to giving this another go. So, let's go play Ikari Warriors. Okay, here we are with Ikari Warriors, ported to Atari ST and various other platforms by Elite. So, I wasn't familiar with the original arcade version of this back in the day. I just knew this Atari ST version, which I always quite like playing. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, this got a bit of criticism back in the day for being very similar to other Commando style games, but I always quite enjoyed it. And it's actually a surprisingly good port of the arcade version as well. So, like I said, the only thing really missing from it is the loop lever control. And so what you have here is you can just move in any direction. It just completely lacks the ability to fire in a direction other than the one you're moving, which kind of does sort of change the gameplay to a certain degree. So I'm not sure if they actually rebalanced the game with that in mind. But anyway, yeah, so this is Ikari Warriors if you've never seen it before. You have two weapons, which are your machine gun, which you can fire by tapping the fire button, and your grenades, which you can hurl by holding down the fire button. And grenades are mostly used for blowing up installations, but they can also be used for taking out larger groups of enemies as well. Oops. But yeah, you are very fragile in this. You can only take one hit before you die. Unless you're in a tank. In which case you can run people over and you can hurl large blasts at them. And your blasts have the same effect as your grenades, so... One thing you do have to watch out for in this is that when you destroy something like a tank or a structure, you'll notice those pieces of shrapnel fly out in 8 directions. And those can kill you. Which was quite an unusual thing at the time. Those of you who've been watching the Atari 8-bit Atari A to Z series, when I get to Laserhawk, you'll see that that was probably the earliest example I saw of a game where explosions could kill you. But this was also a fairly early example as well. So, alright, so in this bit we've got landmines to get through. We've got this thing firing at us. So if you know the arcade version, you'll see that, yeah, this is a pretty true port. In a lot of ways. So graphically, it's pretty close. The music is pretty true to it as well. One of the things I found quite amusing in a review of this was that it was complaining that the play area was constrained. But the original game for this was a vertically orientated Tate style game anyway, so this is just pretty authentic to the original. It's a bit more square rather than the rectangular Tate display that the original would have had. But even so. Yeah, you're not really losing out on anything. And what this does mean is that the important information around the side of the screen, like the amount of ammunition and grenades and stuff you've got, it doesn't interfere with the gameplay, it doesn't get in the way, but it's still clearly visible. And there we go. The nice thing about those shrapnel explosions is that they can also take out enemies as well. So besides them being dangerous for yourself, you can also use them to your own advantage as well. Fun fact, the spiritual predecessor to this game, TNK3 by SNK, you're driving a tank much like the one you have in this, and the guy in the tank is supposedly one of the guys from Ikari Warriors as well. So now you know. If you follow my other site, Mario Gamer, you may well see that I've been working my way through the SNK 40th Anniversary Collection for Nintendo Switch recently. And the 3 Ikari Warriors games are all in that collection. Uh-oh, gonna die. Get out. Ow, dead. Yes, that is the original arcade version of this. And then it's got Victory Road, which is the really weird second one where you're like fighting Satan or whatever. And then Ikari Warriors 3 as well, which is a bit more like SNK's later Shock Troopers games, in that there's almost beat-em-up elements to it as well. So there's almost a stronger emphasis on melee combat. I'm never sure what all those different power-ups do. I mean, some of them are pretty obvious, like the gas and the gunpowder ones, which just restore your ammunition. But like things like the K, I have no idea what they do. A lot of SNK games at the time, they actually incorporated power-ups which would spell out SNK for no other reason than the fact that they thought it was a funny thing to do. Oh, you notice my tank is actually firing a different type of shots at the minute, so... Uh-oh. Time to escape. Oh, dead. Oh, and that's that. Please enter your name, maximum 8 characters. And we can use the keyboard, thank God for that. Alright, so that is Ikari Warriors for Atari ST, developed by Elite. Pretty true port of the arcade version there, so yeah. If you're looking through Atari ST games and you want a good example of an arcade conversion, yeah, this is a great one. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please help out the channel by leaving a like or a comment and subscribing. New episodes of Atari A to Z are on Tuesdays and Atari ST A to Z on Thursdays. Check out atariatoz.wordpress.com for a full archive. Do please also check out my other projects moegamer.net, where I explore Japanese and Japanese-inspired games from yesterday and today, and videopackgames.wordpress.com, which aims to catalogue the small but well-formed library of the Philips G7000 Videopack computer, also known as the Magnavox Odyssey 2. You can also support my work on Patreon or buy me a coffee. You can find links to do both down in the video description. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.